bricks on the screen, healthcare in between. Physics, art, and math got us down this path. Historical tales come alive, where science and stories dive. Blended facts with heart, knowledge from the start. Need bridge blues we sing to the future memory. Health and science in the mix. Need bridge got the fix. Complex subjects make
right
clear
now
every episode
in ways that we actually acquire
leads the way.
and ways that make me more efficient.
In the world of digital streams, turning knowledge into dreams. Through the tales of old, new stories unfold.
Thank you so much for joining with me. It is truly an honor and a privilege.
MedBix Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges.
Hey, my internet is getting slow a little bit. Hey, welcome to the MedBix Webcast. There's a little bit, I'm having a little bit problem there today. So not a usual time. Welcome to the MedBix Webcast. This is Ramana Annamaraju. I'm the host. So I'm not in the usual place. This is a little bit different today because, it's a little unusual settings. But I recently attended American College of Cardiology conference in Chicago. ACC, a very prestigious organization among cardiologists. Very prestigious organization for the cardiology field of cardiology. So what happened was that, every cardiologist asking me, where is Amy? So it became every cardiologist asking, where is Amy? So I wanted a documentary on her, where is searching for Amy, but I couldn't find. I found at the end we found her, and we met her. She is a force to reckon with. She's a highly respected cardiologist, and is a trailblazer. She's an innovator, visionary. She did so many things. I'm really quite impressed. She is a Chief Innovation Officer for the American College of Cardiology, and then she is a FDA consultant advisory board on the board of Federal Drug Administration, FDA, actually run by another good friend. He watches my program, Dr. Matthew McCary. He is the chair of the FDA. So, she was an evangelist for the health equity and then access to the care, digital health. So let me bring her. Let me bring the Amy Bhatt. Amy Bhatt. She is joining from Boston. She is also went to Harvard, Yale. Let me tell you, welcome, Amy. Welcome to the MedBix Webcast. We have a little technical issues, but we are working on it. Okay, welcome to the MedBix.
Thank you for having me.
So, Amy, I've been trying to get you for a whole year. Tell me a little bit about your background. What is the roles you play? What are the responsibilities you do in these two positions? Now we have a very important positions. So tell us a little bit about that two responsibilities you have.
Yeah, no, thanks. So first of all, thank you for having me. It is an honor, and you have a great podcast. We enjoy watching. So I started in medicine and pediatrics as a practicing clinician, studying both adults and children, wanting to make sure that I could do global health, and along the way fell in love with cardiology. And as I fell in love with cardiology, what I quickly realized was we weren't getting access to care in the communities where people needed cardiac care the most. And so within my clinic at the Mass General Hospital in Harvard, I spent a lot of time thinking about early technologies, digital stethoscopes, handheld ultrasound, the use of data, transferring images, what can you do? And I happened to have that as almost my side interest when I was regularly seeing patients in the hospital and clinic. when I was running the outpatient operations at Mass General Hospital, 60,000 visits a year through our clinics, and COVID happened. And so we had to turn to virtual care. And fortunately, that had been my side interest. And so it was a real interesting opportunity to be able to start to deliver care entirely virtually. And I think that was the start of what brought me to my jobs today, which is as Chief Innovation Officer at the American College of Cardiology. Three things: working with companies to help them understand where do they fit in the market, how do they fit into clinical workflow, right? Because there are these great technologies that we see, but the challenge is actually 96% of these new technologies don't make it into scalable practice. They can't really figure out what scale looks like. And so how do we help that? And the second is helping clinicians and health systems understand, how do I use the technology and what do I do? And so, those are the things that we work on at the ACC.
Let me, I don't know which one is, I,
This is good. I see two of you. I'm going to learn twice as much from you. All right, while we're waiting for the technical issues, I'll tell you about the other part, which is the Digital Health Advisory Committee at the FDA. Really thoughtful and nice opportunity to say, how can we at the FDA accelerate and create an infrastructure that helps digital technologies grow? And so it's also been very nice and dovetails well with the other job.
I don't know why it is doing something. Just to give me 1 second.
No worries at all.
I'm going to delete those things, when I do.
Yep. Yeah.
That's one thing I will ask you about the technology frustrations that everybody has. It is a stress. It causes a lot of stress. People don't know this, but it causes a lot of. Even I'm in Silicon Valley, it causes a lot of stress. I'm in the center of Silicon Valley, heart of Silicon Valley, and I meet every day. They are having same problem. I think one of the areas the American Medical Association and American College of Cardiology should address this technology stress, in my view. So let me go back to the original problem. Okay, let me ask you, heart disease is, your journey is wonderful, is exciting. Let me ask you a question about the heart disease. Is an epidemic in the world, not only in the United States. United States is also number one killer in the world. What is causing this huge increase in the heart diseases? Do you have some understanding from the American College of Cardiology studies or anything like that?
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, we call it an increase in heart disease, but I think our underlying problem is it has been and will remain the number one killer of people in non-communicable diseases, right? Because what we see, let's take the South Asian population as an example, right? South Asians make up 25% of the world's population. They make up 60% of the heart disease that's happening in the world, of the cardiovascular disease. That is a significant burden there, right? And that's a significant portion of the population. And it's really not an equal match. The part that is, I think, almost the most challenging and most frustrating is a large majority of it, especially atherosclerotic disease, right? Plaques in the arteries, is in fact preventable. Yes, there is some genetics, but with good control of the risk factors, diabetes, hypertension, smoking, we can really do a good job in preventing heart disease. And yet the system all over the world has been organized in such a way that we are treating people after they present rather than when they develop. And we need to be moving earlier to catch people during the developing phase and make it important to them, make them realize, when people hear the word cancer, everybody moves. Everybody wants to do something. When they say risk of heart disease, it's not a big enough deal for people to start making changes in their life. So I think we need to really make it a bigger deal. So I don't know that it's as much increasing as we are failing to get ahead of it. And we have the knowledge and the ability to do so.
Amy, why is South Asians, why that is particular population is a high risk?
Yeah. So one is genetics. We do have a tendency towards higher levels of a variety of cholesterols, including recently lipoprotein A, LP little a has been in the news a lot. The second is that there are, in fact, kind of many people who have smaller coronary arteries, smaller arteries, easier to kind of get blocked, more likely to present with multivessel disease. And diabetes is really, truly a cardiovascular equivalent. And we have a rampant amount of diabetes. And so I think a lot of those things are important. If you look at expats, though, South Asians who are not living in South Asia, but who have come abroad, we also realize things like in the United States, an average primary care doctor will say your body mass index is 25. That is overweight. It turns out for the South Asian population, 23. The minute you're above a body mass index of 23, meaning your kind of height to weight ratio, you need to be starting to lose weight. You're increasing your risk. And so some of those things are nuances that are present in some ethnicities and others. So I'd say genetics. There is something about our anatomy. There is this diabetes equivalent and a lot of risk factors earlier in life. And we just need more awareness, right, of what are the right targets for us.
How much is the food problem? You're from India, I'm from India. South India, we eat a lot of rice. That's another problem. In Gujarat, you're from where you're from, is a lot of sugar they put in. Every time I eat any Gujarati friends, my mind, I have a bunch of sugar inside. How do you solve, this big challenge, right?
Yeah,
Food is the
yeah.
biggest challenge, right?
So I'll tell you, my mom will often say to me, she'll say, Ami, when you're talking to the community and you're talking to them about, sugar and other things, you have to remind them of the risks. And I remind her, yes, but there is one time I'll tell you, I was at the temple, the mandir, and I was giving a talk on risk factors. And somebody said to me, well, how will my son-in-law know how much I value him if I don't use ghee or clarified butter and sugar when I'm cooking? And there is something cultural about enjoying rich food, about the pride of being able to create it. Now, I will say that some of my very best friends are vegan and they are Gujarati. So it's not to say that everybody's the same. There is a bell curve and a spectrum. But I think culture is important. Talking about what healthy food looks like and what less healthy food looks like, explaining why something is healthier than something else. And then I think physical activity, I will say, is another area of import. We're really encouraging the South Asian population to be more physically fit. I'm not saying there aren't very physically fit people. Some of my friends are the most fit that I've seen, but there's a range, and a majority of us fall into the less active over generations. And so now this next generation, we're really trying to encourage people, know your numbers, understand what your risk factors are, and control those risk factors before you get disease. Know your family history. If everybody has had a heart attack, that means there's something about it that you should really be paying attention to, and even more strict than they were. And then things like activity, right? Getting together and doing active things together as friends rather than eating laddus together as friends. Some of those, it sounds very silly, but it's actually very true. Lifestyle changes can really help us. And then awareness can help us. Not missing that you had a heart attack because you thought it was something else and coming in late. So I think there's a lot of education to be done.
Let us talk about the little bit about diagnostics. Once that
Mhm.
things, is there any calcium scoring or the PDA, the peripheral artery disease, that the testing screening would be helpful? You think
Yeah.
yeah, the massive screening should be done? What is the ACC stand on that kind of things?
Yeah. So first is those risk factors I talked about. We need to be screening massively. We have one program actually that's called Driving Urgency in LDL Screening. LDL is low density lipoprotein. It's the bad cholesterol, if you will. And all we do is we tell the doctors at thousands of hospitals, right? Thousands of doctors. This patient has not had an LDL checked in 2 years. 2 weeks later, we tell the patients, you need to have your LDL checked. We increase the percentage of statin prescription, right? Lipitor, Zocor, those kind of things, from 6% to 50%. And those patients started paying more attention to diabetes, hypertension. So the first thing is check those labs and start to correct them. I think that's important. Now, second, when you're kind of thinking about testing, a calcium score actually is helpful It's more helpful oftentimes when you are younger than when you're older, because most of us have some plaque when you're older and your calcium score may end up being higher. So it may be more helpful when you're younger, but I will tell you, there are advances now. So now we can do coronary or heart CTs where we can see the plaque in your artery. It's called a cardiac CTA. And there's even new companies, speaking about AI and digital health and the work I'm doing now, that can not only tell you, hey, you have a blockage, but hey, you may have a few blockages. This blockage on the right is less stable than the one on the left. It is more likely to rupture or to break off and really create a full blockage that might give you a heart attack. So what is the risk level of each of these areas of risk in your heart? So the science is advancing from knowing your numbers, most important thing, calcium score, yes, coronary CAT scan, are there blockages? And now even how dangerous is the blockage if I have it? So there's a lot of screening, and I suggest everybody kind of talk to their clinicians about it. And the ACC has resources about it too.
Cardiac CT is a little bit of expensive. Is it possible in the future with AI, ultrasound can do that because ultrasound is widely available? Is ultrasound is useful in the direction you think?
When I first started, we used to do a lot of ultrasound studies of the carotid artery in the neck, and we would look at kind of the thickness of some of the vasculature in the neck. And it was a pretty good measure for the likelihood of disease. But what I will say is, in general, the use of ultrasound is a little bit different than the use of coronary CT because of where you can look at the blood vessels, right? So for people who don't really know about it, ultrasound is easier to use in areas where you can get to those blood vessels. The ultrasound we use for the heart can tell us muscle pumping. It can tell us about valves that open and close or sizes. But for the coronary arteries right now, the CAT scan is what we're using. Now, here's the interesting part. Increasingly, our ability to use AI on things that are less invasive, less expensive, and tell you your risk is increasing. So we call that kind of predictive risk modeling. Knowing all the risk factors that go into you, your social demographics, your risk factors, your family history, your symptoms, and starting to get more to a personalized version of medicine where we know about your risk and can calculate the likelihood that something's going on. That is coming. To do that, we need more South Asian people to participate in the registries so we can study people. If we study ourselves, then we have a better idea of, hey, you're a lot like this patient who had this thing. That might be similar to you. So I think there's a lot of hope. I see what you're getting at, which is many of these technologies are expensive and can't be used everywhere. I think some of the data-driven technologies that predict risk, if we get enough people to sign up for the registries and study how South Asians' hearts are, we'll be more able to predict what might happen with less resource costly mechanisms.
Let us talk about the data. Before I talk about AI, artificial intelligence, data is, as you said, that we need to get the registry and the data. But one of the problem is the challenges of sharing the data. There is a lot of these EMR companies are giving a hard time sharing the data. And what is in organizational stand, FDA or ACC stand on this kind of a data sharing system? And it's a big problem, right? They're refusing. When the government went to the court and still they're refusing to share the data. How do you solve this problem?
Yeah. So I'm going to, speak for nobody and everybody at the same time. Anybody who really wants to improve access to healthcare knows that without interoperability, it's just too difficult. We need to be able to share patients' information across state borders, institutions, other lines, because that's how healthcare is today. It's not all centralized in one location. The challenge from the other side is we live in a capitalistic market, at least in the United States, largely in India, right? Other places. So in the capitalist societies, there is very little incentive to get people to share their data. And that's where patients insisting that the data belongs to them is actually a really interesting movement. Because if it is your data, then you should have the right to share it with the people that you want to share it with. So I'm always interested when I meet with my privacy and my legal friends to hear, how are we moving in that direction? And is there a legal stance towards interoperability where patients can insist? Now, I'll tell you, we're doing this new registry at the American College of Cardiology, and it is a patient-first digital registry, which means the patients give access such that we can go into their electronic record directly through their portal. That asks for nobody else's permission but the patient's, because it is the patient's data. And then we're doing that all for one specific disease process right now. So all patients who have it are eligible. They give us access. We bring their data in, and in our data center, in a very privacy secure way, we can fill out a registry of all the information about all these patients, because they don't have a place or a registry or a home right now.
Maybe
And so-
American College of Cardiology is a solution for this problem.
So we're
because-
working on it. Yeah. I think, we have to find different ways to get all the information where it needs to go. But I will say, we're increasingly also working across silos with industry, with legal, with privacy, with governments, right? If you think about, all over the globe, look how much progress we could make if we could cross from one country to the next and be able to share data and get even more powerful data. And then the AI that we'll get to eventually, the AI is only as good as the diversity and the power and the volume of data we have. So interoperability is going to be key as we move forward.
Maybe it's off the topic, but I wanted to ask you how much the data available in other countries like India and other countries. There is not like a restrictions like United States. This capitalistic problem, the political influences are not there. So you think is it easy to get some data from other countries to manage it?
Some of the ministries of health throughout the globe have been my favorite people to work with,
Really?
because they recognize the importance of gathering the data throughout the country, of having it in a mechanism that people can work with it. Now, having said that, you said sound surprised when you said really. Yes, being a Ministry of Health is a red tape laden process that takes a long time. It is not their fault. It is how we have set up governments. However, they have been really forthcoming in wanting to improve the health of their nations. And so we've had this experience in the Middle East, North Africa. We've had this experience in Asia, where increasingly it's been really great for the American College of Cardiology to work with ministries of health, because they recognize the importance of being able to have good data from diverse data sets throughout their countries. And so I think there's a lot of promise internationally, and the global aspect of I know we're called the American College of Cardiology, but really we're a global organization. And that global side is often what's pushing some versions of innovation.
That is definitely a good news in that sense. Let us talk about, you're talking about AI, artificial intelligence. I'm in the center of Silicon Valley. Even the taxi drivers talk about AI here, So AI is everywhere, So what is is it a lot of hype, and there is a hype, there is a reality, there's a lot of checks and balances in that one. Where do you stand on this AI, in particularly related to cardiology?
Yeah. There are 3 areas that I think right now today, if people were interested, they could implement and would probably make things better. The first is administrative. The AI is ready. If you want to have a conversation with your patient and not be turning your back and typing, the voice to text technology that can capture our conversation and write it as a patient note is helpful. Why is that also helpful? It can mark all the billing things necessary so that the billing goes correctly. It can reduce it to a 6th or 8th grade language level so the patient gets a note that they understand. And so there are a lot of things we can do with words and data right now because of voice to text technology. So I think that's really important in allowing clinicians to just have the conversation and let the grunt work get done by a computer, right? Same is true for insurance, prior authorization. What are all the things you need to fill out on this form? Let the computer do it, and then you check it, right? So I think administrative is more supply chain, back office, right? All those things very, very reliably can be done now. You have to work with the AI in your own institution, but very reliably can be done. So that's administrative. People should think about investing in it. It is making a difference. And then there's the area I spend most of my time in, which is there is more information available than my brain can hold about cardiology. There just is. In the 1970s, that maybe wasn't the case. Today, there's just more information. So how do I get the information I need at my fingertips at the moment I need it to make the best decision for a patient? Now, I don't mean split second, right? Some of that split second has to be experience. But if I'm sitting with you and you have 3 diseases, I don't necessarily know the exact guideline to the date with the best research. I don't know where you live and what insurance you have and which drugs you can get, but the computers know because that data is available. So the use of AI to bring us knowledge at the point of care to best take care of a patient, that is an area that the American College of Cardiology is very interested in globally. How do we help clinicians navigate to the right information at the right time? And then they can decide. They have the clinical power, right? They are the apex clinical person. They can decide what to do, but let's give them the knowledge. So that's really, I think, an area of growth. And then I think the last area that I'll mention is the very first area. Radiology has had AI for a very long time. Cardiology is now getting it, ophthalmology, pediatrics. There are a lot of places now that are using it. But the ability to help obtain testing or images, guide you when you're doing some sort of a procedure to make sure it goes right, help people who are in, there was a great example of a young group of women who are community health workers in Pakistan. They came to me in Dubai when I was giving a talk, and they said, Dr. Bhatt, we have an ability to use AI to help us know that when we're using an ultrasound, we have a good enough image for the doctor to read. I mean, red and green, very simple. Red, don't take this image. Green, take this image. And now they can get good pictures. And then the doctor has that much of an easier time, and they can go faster because once they get green, they're done. They can get the next patient, next patient. So lots of ways to upskill people because we don't have enough caregivers for the number of patients in the world. We just don't. There are not enough doctors and nurses to meet the need. So can we upskill community health workers, other people, to be better at capturing disease? Absolutely. And I think that's the most exciting area right now.
That is the question I'm going to ask you. That is exactly I'm leading to. So is it the ultrasounds or CT scan that you're doing? It's a very heavy. I used to provide a service. I'm not a doctor, but I used to provide a diagnostic services in the rural Georgia. So it is heavily operator dependent, these modalities. Do you think AI can help less dependent on the operator itself?
Absolutely 100%. At the last ACC, actually the last 2 annual ACC meetings, when we have these kind of Shark Tank type events, we had companies come who had a random person from the audience come up, never held an ultrasound probe before, and within 12 seconds had the correct image for a diagnosis of aortic stenosis. I mean, we can absolutely increase the skill of trained workers in the community. And so it's interesting, the Deputy Secretary of Labor was at a meeting that I was at in DC 2 weeks ago here in the US. And he had said, we really want to work on training people who have a specific tech ability. Can we start to train people who can do a certain aspect of healthcare and do it well? And as we talked about that, one of the conversations is, can you take people who don't have all the training that doctors and nurses and others have, not to have them maintain long-term, decide on care plans for, make nuanced decisions, but go out there to all the people who are not getting any healthcare right now. They exist in every country, people who have no healthcare, and say to them, I can do a basic evaluation. Are you sick or not sick? Do you need attention or not? In our case, for cardiology or not? And then get you to care. So the other option, if we don't start to do this, is they still don't get care. Let them be. There's no other option. There's not enough doctors, enough nurses. The only option is, can we upskill somebody? Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry to interrupt. Even that is a problem in this country, right? I used to have a hard time finding the technologists. Now it's still a huge shortage of technologists, more than doctors. How do you can you reduce the restriction? There is a lot of restrictions on the RDCS, a licenses you got to go through. They need a bachelor's degree. They're giving a increasing more regulations on these technologies. What is ACC is talking about it? Are they going to reduce this kind of a stress on the system?
Yeah. So I think a few things. I think one is upskilling is definitely important and something that we can do for people who are licensed to be able to do more, right? And so that's really important. The second is we do have a rural health initiative where we're working on kind of education, access, connecting centers with those who are in the community. And so that's starting in New Mexico for us in the ACC. But globally, our global innovation program is working very hard at starting to understand how do we take different groups of people and create certifications that are clear for here is the level of what you are approved to do, right? But there are so many different levels and so much healthcare that needs to be delivered that depending on what the need is in a specific region or country, there are ways to start to think about how do you educate people? How do you train them? And then how do you test them? And that's an important part, which is once you learn how to do something, what is the way that we continually check in on you and make sure that you not only still know how to do it, but that if there are updates and if things are getting better because science is moving fast, technology is moving fast today, that we push you those updates. And so that area of education and adult learning has really been an emphasis for the American College of Cardiology globally, which is, can we teach you what you really need to know? Can we certify you for that skill that you're learning? And most importantly, can we continue to support you in your growth? And that's, I think, why this global side of individuals who are joining the ACC is growing so rapidly, because there's kind of great value in that approach, which, you're emphasizing yourself.
I'm a couple of blocks away from here. Two companies, which is Exo Imaging. They started he's from my hometown. He started this what do you call Exo Imaging iris cardiac ultrasound with the iPhone, and then Butterfly is there. So these are all new modalities are coming, much making it easier to screen. Right? These are
Absolutely.
the modalities. What is your opinion on these new modalities that is coming up there in the market?
Yeah. So, I was just with Joe DeVivo, the CEO of Butterfly, recently at an AdvaMed meeting, and we had a great conversation talking about kind of the future potential if we start breaking down silos. Academics, working directly with industry, working with medical societies, working with the government. That is when we actually make progress. And I say that because a new diagnostic screening modality. So there's one thing to extend current diagnostic screening, right? There are pathways to extend what's currently done. Oftentimes, what we meet are new diagnostic categories. Phones that can lay on your chest and tell you things about your heart underlying it. Algorithms for earbuds, where when you're wearing your regular earbuds going about your day, it is measuring things about your heart just ambiently during the day. There's a lot of ambient measurement technologies coming. One of the challenges is when we have either guidelines or practice tendencies, it is hard to see where do you replace the current thing I'm doing with a new diagnostic technology. And if we wait for hundreds of randomized clinical trials on each of them, then that company doesn't make it. It's too long to wait. But we also don't want not enough data that we use a new diagnostic technology and we learn that it's not good in the middle of caring for a patient. And so I think that's the area where what is the government doing for it? How do medical societies, guideline writing committees, academics think about it? And what can industry do to raise the bar? We really have to work together for anything that's a brand new diagnostic. For diagnostics that are an extension of an existing one, it's still a high bar, but I think we're getting there a little bit faster.
Great point of discussion. That is a really truly challenging and is a really needed accommodating that kind of a process. Let me ask you, AI. We are talking about. Just let me go back to AI. You're a champion for health equity, and who is paying for these AI modalities? The government is trying to cut down the Medicare costs, Medicaid. So how do you expect who is going to pay for this AI cost?
Yeah. So there are two different groups that I've been thinking about lately. One is in the Senate here in the U.S. There's kind of a AI Health Tech Act that's coming forward, really thinking about how do we incorporate the cost for AI and payments for AI that are being used on top of some of the software modalities that we have, right? And the device modalities that we have. Because we have great software, great devices, and the increased use of AI is making them even better. And so there's some great acts that are kind of coming out from a bipartisan committee in the Senate to think about that. We also had the Congressional Digital Health Caucus meet last week or the week before, and they were talking about rural health, which is exactly what you're saying. How will we start to use AI in these communities to improve care? And I think the underlying statement, either here or globally, is access. Once we increase access to care, once we increase screening diagnostics, it turns out that we are certain that in the longer term, the use of urgent and emergent care, the decline in the workforce locally because people are sick and taken out of care for a long time in a town that's really dependent on those people, right? If you add up those societal and actual costs, we are better off finding disease earlier and treating it earlier because it becomes very expensive. So I think you have to really measure. Some of my very first research papers were in high resource utilization. What are the things that use the highest resources? And is there a way to implement AI to find those things early before they become high resource use? And when people see that, like these Congress people, right, in our House of Representatives, and like the senators who are putting forward these bills, they are government officials who see the benefit of catching patients earlier. We need leaders like them to do it. And then we need people like yourself to have these conversations so that the public understands, so that we all move together, for societies to back these technologies and make sure they understand where they fit in the workflow. You can't make a great technology and nobody wants to use it. That's not very helpful. From the FDA side too, that is our biggest fear, is we approve all these technologies and nobody wants to use it. So again, it's this combination of government, industry, and academia together that makes these things successful.
Thank you for that advocacy work. Thank you so much. That is, we needed people like you. So let me ask you a question on the iron. AI has enormous benefits you're talking about. It can give access, quality, and cost. It can work on the iron triangle of that. But let me, you know somebody that his name is Jan LeCun. He is a very skeptical of AI. Even though he is a very leader in the AI, I follow him all the times, and he says that there is physics is missing in the AI.
Yeah.
Is real world, they don't understand the real world. He is very skeptical of all these high talk. So what do you think of his?
So
He's putting a little bit of water on the fire.
so he is, for those who don't know, a kind of chief AI scientist at Meta, and very vocal about the science part of AI and the fact that, in fact, the generative AI models upon which a lot of the discussion I'm having is based, right? This voice to text in the office, the use of large language models to do predictive modeling. And he's pretty clear that as we become more dependent on multimodal inputs, right? I want video images of things, and then I want patient reported outcome, and then I want these wearables, and as I start to do more multimodal work, generative AI, it may not be the right thing for that. And there are abstract versions of AI. And in fact, we were at a conference together where he said, in 3 years, generative AI is not going to be the thing we use. And I actually asked him a question that I don't think it was a question. I think it was a very sad statement. I said, but I'm currently concocting all these plans based on the current generative AI, and you're telling me in 3 years it will be moot. A few things. One is the rate at which the technology is going to accelerate, right? In AI, people say, like, stop looking at that, look at quantum next, right? Stop looking at quantum. There's always a next. We have to balance that with the fact that right now, there are a significant number of people across the globe who receive no health care. None. For many of those people, it's not even the healthcare that's the problem. It's their social construct, right? They're also not receiving water, electricity. I mean, there's so many stuff. So that is a large discrepancy. And that's not a digital divide. That is like a social world divide of there are areas that really don't have anything. Healthcare is one of the things that they're missing. So yes, I think the technology will continue to grow and we will learn so much. But every now and then there's a revolutionary shift in this is something that feels accessible to the world. And that's where generative AI is. It feels accessible to the world. You feel like you can ask ChatGPT a question about how to make a recipe for tonight, and it may give you an answer that seems halfway decent. It is making technology feel more accessible. And the power of that can't be understated. Because if we move in ways that technology can't be understood by the average human, then how are we going to really implement it? So I think this is still a revolutionary stage where this first move we've made is really powerful. And I like for it to seep into people's homes and understanding. Now, the one thing I will say, so that's my answer to Jan LeCun, which is not exactly what you asked, but is I think, yes, the research and the science will continue to advance and be so much better. But right now, you've made a change that has affected people. Let's ride with that right now and see, can we improve access? Can we improve care with what people are starting to accept and understand? There will be another shift later. I don't know how much later. Will it be sooner increasingly? Will we get used to it? Will my sixth grader, who has far greater tech, knowledge, dependency, ability than me, be a very different adult at my age? Absolutely. Right. And for her generation, things may move much faster. But for our generation, we are where we are. Let me move back for 1 second and just say one last thing.
No.
As we learn about AI and data and access points and sharing personal information, if we don't learn about cybersecurity risk at the same time, then we are going to open ourselves up to lots of bad actors who are going to do things just because they can or because they have a specific intent in mind. And so I do think that as everybody learns about AI, even these large language models and ChatGPT, and it feels comfortable, we all have to remember. So I'll tell you a very embarrassing story just happened today. I clicked on a phishing email sent by my colleagues in IT as a test through the emails. I wasn't paying attention. I thought something. I clicked, and the minute I clicked on it, I realized, oh God. And sure enough, the little message came up, "Dear Ami, you have clicked on a phishing email," right? And it's that easy. It's that easy to be fooled. I do this for a living. And today I got fooled for the first time in a very long time. But I think it's really important for us to educate about the risks of people taking data, stealing data, doing it at the same time that we give our data.
Yemi, the most important part of the access or innovation or the AI is reaching the high risk population, right? So I married a black woman, is an African American woman. I have 2 children and a mixed race, and I worry because it's like a Southeast Asian, already high risk, and my kids are the African American. Is the risk is multiplied here? What they need to do? They're very healthy. They go. My daughter teaches Pilates and she's in San Francisco right here, and my son is a neuroscientist. He's in Atlanta. So he's a football player and a neuroscience guy. But still I worry about them, not very much about it. How do we reach this high risk population much more aggressive way? That what is the ACC is doing that, and American Black Cardiology Association. I'm very close to, as you know, American Black Black Cardiology Association. I'm one of them. Brought them to Atlanta actually. Then I also I'm very active with the American College of Indian Cardiologists, and then I brought them together. Actually, we had a conference together like 15 years ago. We had a conference together. In fact, I arranged the conference. So what do you think? How do you reach these organizations, and how do they participate, these high risk groups, to reach this high risk access and
Yeah. Well, it's such an important question. First of all, both great associations, right? ACIO and ABC, and we work with both of them through the ACC, and actually saw both of them at the annual meeting recently. I think what we have to recognize is that in order to really make a difference, we have to start addressing cardiovascular diseases much earlier. So the American College of Cardiology this year is launching a campaign called Prime Heart. And the goal of Prime Heart is to catch people in the prime of their lives, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and to start really pushing the importance of knowing that family history, that predisposition because of your ethnicity, what your cholesterol numbers, blood pressure numbers, hemoglobin A1C should be, how often you need to be screened, and what the screening metrics are. So it is an educational push. You can't educate patients alone. You need to educate their clinicians. And that doesn't mean just cardiologists. In fact, the primary care doctors, nurses, caregivers in the community are the front lines for all of these individuals. And so it is a massive educational push that we are doing with sponsorship from a variety of different industry sponsors, all the companies who are really invested in the idea of the earlier we can get people educated, not just patients, but patients, clinicians, communities, health systems about the risk of cardiovascular disease, the more likely we'll be able to catch people earlier and eventually prevent disease. And then we'll see a decline in the deaths from cardiovascular disease that you and I were talking about earlier. So it's called Prime Heart, and it's really a very large push to move much earlier in diagnosis. Some of it is the basics, cholesterol, blood pressure. Some of it is nutrition, diet, education, food as medicine. And then some of it is really genomics, proteomics, metabolomics. So it ranges, and we really have to look at all of those different areas together at the same time. So it's a massive effort, but one that we're really proud of.
Absolutely, great initiative, Amy. You do a great job. You're champion. You're evangelist for this kind of things, access, quality, equity. You're truly a leader. I want are you thinking of becoming an advisor to Modi, Prime Minister Modi, by chance?
So here's the little secret that I'll tell you today. Before I got on this call, we were at a South Indian thread ceremony for my friend's son in Upanayam. The mom actually does a lot of, she's a GI doctor, does a lot of food as medicine, the importance of your gut and gut health. I'm learning so much from her. She's learning from me. We're both learning about menopause and risks to women of heart disease and other things. But from that, I took home some prasad. And so I was eating really pure sugar and butter about 30 minutes before I got on this call. So all that to say, I think being Gujarati, I am absolutely one of those people that needs to watch what I'm doing, but also understands like the love of food and culture and celebrating, etc. So when you ask about India and thinking about what we need to do there, I will tell you absolutely 2 years ago, I was there kind of on a trip thinking about innovation, partnering with groups there. We're right now, again, have a digital health innovation group that is international, but the presence in India is significant. And we're actually looking to certify hospitals and programs in India who have a good mechanism of increasing digital health access such that more people can know their numbers, understand, we can push education to them in the language or the type that they understand, and they can help us understand more data about how the Indian community is doing with health. So super important to me. When we first talked, I said I started training in medicine and pediatrics both. And the reason is I thought someday when I go to India and I do work, I want to be able to take care of anybody who walks in the door. And so it's really nice, many decades into my career to be able to go back there and actually hope to work locally with people to make that difference.
You can ask ChatGPT or AI to create Gujarati dishes without sugar, right?
That's exactly right. But do they really taste as good? I probably shouldn't say that on this call. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
We're getting there. Thank you so much, Amy. It is truly an honor and a privilege to have you. I really enjoy talking with you. You are an informative source. Please keep coming. Your voice is very important to the audience. A lot of doctors, as you said, that my audience are mostly clinicians. They need to, that education is, prime heart, for example, that probably a lot of people don't know about it. So this is the way to know that my kids will know eventually. That kind of things that you're doing is a great job. I think you need to keep talking, and you need to appear more podcasts like ours. And then thank you so much. Your job is, I'm truly honored to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. You have a fantastic podcast and a great audience. So it's an honor to be here. I'd love to come back. And for those who want to learn more about AI specifically, or any of the ACC things we talked about, acc.org, O-R-G, very simple. If you want AI, acc.org/AI. So please take a look and feel free to reach out to me, LinkedIn, give me feedback. I'm always happy to talk.
Thank you so much. Good night, all of you guys. This is a good night.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.